Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, you're looking for that shortcut. The distilled, critical insight that just cuts right through all the noise.
And this time the topic is, well, it's a big one.
It's huge, possibly one of the biggest we've ever had roll across the table. It promises to define, well, everything we think about the future.
You could argue it's the most fundamental request we could possibly get. The title alone is just staggering in its scope.
Absolutely. So, listener, you sent us a stack of sources, excerpts from a work titled Philosophy for the 21st Century. And this should be intellectual ground zero for understanding everything from AI and the climate crisis to digital identity, maybe even post-humanism. We were ready for a heavyweight bout.
Our mission, as you laid it out for us, was to synthesize the author's core argument.
Right, specifically drilling down into pages 785 through 793 to give you those crucial knowledge nuggets. Okay, let's unpack this.
And, our listener wants exactly what we're here to do. Quick, authoritative knowledge on the foundational ideas shaping the world right now.
Yeah.
The expectation for a title like that is that you're going to find dense, complex, but ultimately actionable ideas.
Ideas on how to live in this era.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, philosophy should be giving us the map for all the upheavals we're seeing every single day.
I was getting ready for it. I was mentally prepping for, 5 new categories of ethical responsibility, had the coffee brewing, ready to wrestle with some brand new metaphysical dilemmas.
Sure.
But as we started our rigorous source review, the part where we tear the document apart and catalog every single argument, we hit a wall.
A very, very white wall.
Yes.
We follow a strict methodology here. Every page, every sentence, every note gets extracted, indexed, and cross-referenced.
And I went page by page, 785, 786, 787, all the way to 793. And I'm going to be completely straight with you, listener. I was genuinely convinced there'd been some kind of printing error.
Yeah, that's the first assumption.
The notes and images you sent along with it gave us nothing either. There's no text, there's no data, there are no philosophical concepts, no arguments, absolutely nothing.
We can confirm with 100% certainty that the material you submitted is completely blank.
From the top margin to the footer.
From top to bottom, those 9 pages are a literal white space.
Okay, wait. Before we get into the consequences of this, I have to ask. Are we sure this wasn't some kind of, hyper-intellectual, conceptual art piece?
We asked that question.
Did we check the paper quality? Could this be a meta-commentary from the author on, like absence or silence? Did we look at it under a UV light or something?
We appreciate the hope for a twist ending, really.
Because, frankly, telling you that 9 pages of critical modern philosophy are just empty is a huge letdown.
It is, and we considered every possibility.
Yeah.
Encrypted ink, conceptual minimalism, you name it. We scrutinized the margins, the headers, the lack of a font. Unfortunately, the integrity of our source check confirms this isn't some clever statement. It's just missing content. Structurally, it is a void.
So we've spent hours analyzing the philosophical implications of high-quality copier paper.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, so that brings us to our core limitation, and it's one we uphold for you, the listener. The central constraint of the deep dive is that we can only analyze and report on the content explicitly provided in the sources.
Exactly. And because the arguments, the themes, the specific details, because they are entirely absent, our mission to deliver a knowledge shortcut is, well, it's impossible.
For this specific source, anyway.
For this specific source. And this raises an important question. What does the complete absence of information mean in the context of this topic? Why is that, in itself, a profoundly modern philosophical dilemma?
Right. That's the pivot, isn't it? We can't analyze the content.
So we have to analyze the whole where the content should be.
Let's talk about what we were prepared for, what we thought we were going to find.
We were ready to analyze what should have been the philosophical pillars of the modern age.
Exactly. If those pages had content, this section 2, would be where we introduce the foundational arguments. We would have expected discussions on, say, how technology changes our definition of humanity.
Or how global connectivity changes our concept of responsibility.
And how ecological collapse completely upends our idea of value.
And you can really break it down into 3 central domains that define the 21st century.
Okay, so the first one is obvious. Technology and consciousness. We're talking AI, machine intelligence.
Right.
And the philosophical challenge isn't just, can machines think anymore. That's 20th century stuff.
It's moved far beyond that.
The challenge now is more like, how does my interaction with algorithms actually define my reality? Or what rights does a sophisticated non-biological consciousness deserve?
Had the material been present, we'd probably be chewing on terms like algorithmic phenomenology.
Algorithmic phenomenology. Okay, break that down.
Well, phenomenology is broadly the study of consciousness as it's experienced from the first-person point of view. It's the study of lived experience.
Okay, so algorithmic phenomenology would be analyzing how our lived experience, our decisions, our attention, our access to reality itself
Is all mediated and shaped by the black box of algorithms we rely on every single day.
That's fascinating.
It's analyzing the experience of being a user, of being subjected to the curation of a feed, and how that curation changes the very structure of your knowledge. We were ready to unpack that theory for you.
But there was no theory there.
Just the concept. And an empty page.
Okay, what about the second pillar we anticipated? Surely the climate crisis is in there.
It has to be. It demands new philosophical frameworks. You have to shift from individual short-term ethics to global deep-time ethics.
So you were expecting arguments around intergenerational justice.
Intergenerational justice and the radical restructuring of our value systems, moving from being human-centered, anthropocentric to genuinely ecocentric, maybe even cosmological.
That sounds like it would have introduced something like, I don't know, post-scarcity ethics or maybe ecological responsibility theory.
Exactly, those kinds of concepts.
We would have been looking at who owes what to whom, not just across borders today, but
across centuries,
yeah,
generations into the future. That kind of thinking goes way beyond traditional political theory. It's deep metaphysics.
Okay, so what's the third pillar?
The crisis of truth and identity in the information age. This might be the most salient problem of our century.
When information is so abundant, it's just noise.
And identity can be fragmented or simulated across a dozen platforms. What even constitutes objective reality anymore? What defines the self?
So this would have been discussions about the breakdown of truth, deep fakes, the consequences of living in an environment just saturated with manufactured content. We expected a sophisticated analysis of trust and epistemology.
The study of knowledge itself.
Yes.
Instead of sophisticated analysis of trust, we received 9 pages that fundamentally betray the listener's trust in the source material.
That's a great way to put it. You came to us for knowledge.
And we were handed a container titled Essential Knowledge, and the container is empty. It's a complete content black hole.
It's honestly infuriating. The listener came here for clarity, and all we have to report is a conceptual erasure. But maybe this erasure, this void, maybe we have to treat it as a philosophical statement itself.
That's the only path forward. We have to step back and ask what the meaning of this absence is for the modern learner.
Right.
In an era defined by information overload, maybe the most challenging state isn't having too many ideas, but realizing that certain critical synthesizing concepts just haven't been successfully articulated.
Or maybe they've been deliberately ignored.
That too.
It forces us to engage in critical thinking about the context instead of the content.
Precisely. You came for the finished product, the summarized argument. Instead, the universe handed us a tabula rasa.
A blank slate,
Yeah.
right? Where the critical knowledge was supposed to be.
And that, I think, is the true insight of this deep dive. The philosophical pillars of the 21st century AI, climate, identity, they're so complex, so fast-moving, so contradictory that sometimes the sources we rely on just fail to capture them. The well runs dry.
Okay. So let's summarize what this all means for you, the learner. We've meticulously confirmed that the core arguments in pages 785 through 793 of your document are null. They aren't there. So what does this all mean?
It means we have to reevaluate our expectation of effortless knowledge acquisition. We live in an age where data flows constantly, but the synthesis, the wisdom, the distilled insight, that's incredibly hard to achieve.
The shortcut isn't always there.
Exactly. You sent us 9 pages that should have been a shortcut, but instead they exposed a fundamental weakness in our whole information ecosystem.
And that weakness is very relevant to philosophy, isn't it? If the philosophy of the 21st century is about how we process information, then the fact that a critical source provides no information is the perfect ironic metaphor. The source material just collapsed under the weight of its own title.
It demands that you, the listener, step into that void. If we had presented a summary from some other book, we would be violating our core promise.
Which is to ground our analysis only in the sources provided.
We have to protect the integrity of the process, because your trust in our analysis is paramount.
And the integrity of the process demands we report the truth. And the truth is, the 9 pages meant to define the philosophy of our century were blank.
We can't analyze a new theory of justice if that theory is just white space.
We can only analyze the implications of the white space itself and its impact on your quest for knowledge.
And the implication is clear. The task of defining these philosophical pillars, the challenge of understanding algorithmic phenomenology or post-scarcity ethics, it can't be outsourced to a single, flawed document.
Right.
The lack of content requires you to become the primary critical engine. You have to not only seek out reliable sources, but be prepared to synthesize and structure that information yourself when the definitive answer is simply missing.
That's an excellent way to reframe disappointment into motivation. The intended lesson was to receive knowledge. The actual lesson is recognizing the burden of creating knowledge in a complex world.
It's a much harder lesson.
A much harder lesson. So we want to thank you for submitting such an intriguing, if structurally challenged, topic, and we encourage you to keep seeking out reliable, explicit sources and to start filling in those blank pages yourself.
And as we close this very meta deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. It's based entirely on this concept of information, void, and expectation.
Okay.
If the foundation of 21st century philosophy is defined by the information we consume, what ethical obligations do we have to ourselves, to society, when the critical content we seek is entirely blank, leaving us only with a title and an expectation? It's a question that demands you go out and define those missing pillars yourself.
A challenging and necessary task. We'll be ready for the next stack of sources you send our way.
Hopefully with some text this time.
And we'll keep our fingers crossed for full pages. Until then, keep digging and keep questioning the source.